Hi folks, and welcome to another guide. And today what I would like to talk about is a supply depot. That's basically a supply depot extends the range of supply system within the game itself, knowing that our two supply systems are main supply, which I showed in a previous video, and port supply. So what a supply depot does is it extends the range of a supply system as if it was a supply source. That's the idea behind it. Now, you can't build these. What they are, and I'm just going to show you the icons here, they're predetermined within the game itself. So when you take a look at this, I should say predetermined within the scenario themselves, these are supply sources. These are the icons for supply sources. So they're built and situated in such a way to be able to extend the supply. So if I'm looking at this chain of supply depots here, then more than likely I'm going to be extending supply in this particular direction from the point of view of an Axis player. You can only use 3 in a row, so that's the rule. So basically I need to get over to the other side here of the desert here, and that's what exactly I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how this works from the point of view of supply. So you can see here's my regular supply chain. I'm going to go quickly here just to show you so that this way you're aware. I do have a plane, and I'm going to make sure that it is ready to go, and same with this one. So just to show you how this works, so my goal is to capture that supply chain and this port here. As I move back, it's a surprise attack. Here's another one here, that's awesome. So I've captured this, moving forward as quickly as possible just to show you. Just having a little fun here. So I've captured one supply depot, and it looks like the British are retreating, which is okay by me. This allows me to easily capture the port and actually move even further ahead, and I'm going to do the same here and bring the Italian forces over. And my goal would be to actually have the Italian forces, just to show you my plan here, the Italian forces will come around here, forming a front here to prevent the escape of these units, and the German units will push forward in this direction. Again, what I'd like to do is be able to trap these 3 units here if possible. Actually, I'm showing supply here, so you can see my supply source so far. And if you recall, the supply depot is at that particular hex. No reports to follow, and you can see now that I've captured the supply depot, this is of 9 here, and you can see just like before, the supply value of each hex is there, but the supply depot has a supply value of 9. Now the point is to show the connection here, so I'm going to go across here to connect these very quickly. And again, like I mentioned before, the Italian units will be going across. And I'm just going to move up here, waiting for my headquarters to come up and allow me to actually move some planes in some locations here. There you can see the famous exclamation mark. That tells me that I've used up all the supply in that particular port, and this particular port is actually of supply 0, so it's not producing anything whatsoever. So let's move forward, and you can see now when you're taking a look at the hexes themselves, and again I'm just having the allied player be the AI at the historical level, because I just really want to show how the supply depots work. We now take a look and we can see with the capture of the second supply depot. So here you can see it's got a supply value of 9. This has a supply value of 9, and as before, or as mentioned before, basically these are calculated through the mech movement points allowance. So the countdown, so it'll take one op point to move to this particular hex, another op point to move to that hex, and so forth down the line. And because this is a 9, you can see that this also has a countdown, but since this is rougher terrain here, it takes 2 op points, and hence why that's a 7 there. But remember too, those values are important, especially in the calculation of effectiveness. Again, just kind of showing what I really want to show here is the capture of the supply points here. I'm just going to run through this, and again running the Italians across as quickly as I possibly can to be able to prevent these units here from escaping. And there's an armor unit there, and I'm going to move this unit up, and this unit I'm going to start moving over. And I do have a ship in port here. Again, very difficult to see with the supply lines here, and the headquarters, I can start moving them over. Leave the ship there until I capture Benghazi. And looked like for a second there that the AI was gonna leave Benghazi open for me, but it did not. Okay, so here we go. Now we can take a look at it in action here. Here are my 3. So I have my port supply. I have my supply source here. This is a 9. Here is my first supply depot here. It's also a 9. My next connection is this supply depot here, which is also a 9, and then I've extended it all the way to my third depot here. So from now on in, what I'll have to do is capture possibly another port. There's another supply depot there, but that's 4 in a row there, so this will be useless for me. I'll have to rush up and capture that port, and that's exactly what I would end up doing out of all of it. And now I've cut off those units, those UK units, as I'm moving more Italian forces over, and as I'm strengthening my German units here, I'm ready to attack from that point of view. So that's how supply depots work. Just to turn off the supply icon, there's the supply depot icon, and as I mentioned earlier on, you have to remember, and just to read this, so it may check supply from another supply depot extending a range 3 times only. So as you can see, that's exactly what I did in my example here. I've got my extension 1, 2, 3, and what ends up happening when I take a look at it, you can see I've extended my supply, and each of the values here represent the hex supply level, so that when I go to the next turn and capturing that other point, you can see I've captured all of the terrain that I want to capture to be able to allow me to go right across the desert there. So you can see I've made a connection here, and the supply depots themselves have allowed that to actually happen. So that's how supply depots work. Remember, they're an extension of supply, so that means they're an extension of main supply, or they're an extension of port supply. The only 2 supply systems that are built in are main supply and port supply. And remember, main supply comes from the home country and spreads out, so even port supply in essence uses main supply, as the supplies are transferred from the home country into the ports. Hopefully this video has helped. Thank you very much for watching. Have yourself a great night and stay safe.